60 days until Election Day, and the first batch of absentee ballots are scheduled to be mailed out as early as tomorrow. My next guest, known as the Nostradamus of U.S. elections for correctly predicting 9 of the last 10 presidential races, using his own 13 keys to the White House, criteria a candidate must win in order to achieve victory. Well, he now says that he's ready to call the race. American University history professor Alan Lichtman joins me now. Professor, all right, here it is. Who will win the next president of the United States?
According to the keys to the White House, which has been right for 40 years, we are going to have a precedent-breaking victory. Kamala Harris will be president of the United States.
Now, I'm looking at the true keys, the false keys, and you have some TBDs on the screen as well. Under your criteria, Harris obtains 8 keys, the minimum, by the way, to win, according to you. But can any of these keys potentially flip before the election? I mean, you've got social unrest. If that breaks out, have you ever changed your prediction?
I have never changed my prediction once I've made a final call. The notion of an October surprise is a myth. All my predictions have been before the October surprise, and they have all held. Social unrest doesn't suddenly emerge. It takes a long time for there to be enough social unrest to turn the key, which requires massive, sustained social unrest. With a maximum of 5 keys down and likely 4, Harris is well short of what's needed to predict her defeat and give Donald Trump the White House again.
Your method is unconventional. I mean, you have battleground states, and those polls show a much tighter race than what you're describing. And even the Bulwark's Jonathan Last calls your approach, I'm quoting here, nothing more than parlor tricks and folkways, the political equivalent of wearing garlic to protect yourself from vampires. So he's not pulling any punches. What do you say to that? And how are you so sure?
Sour grapes. Whenever you're unconventional, and I go against the pundits and the pollsters, as I did when I called Donald Trump in 2016, you are going to get those sour grapes critics. You cannot predict 9 of 10, and I would say 10 of 10, because I think I was right about 2000, because based on the intention of voters, Al Gore should have won that election going away, as I proved in my report to the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights. But you can't, with parlor tricks, pick 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 winners. Plus, my system is based on the structure of how American presidential elections really work, not on ephemeral polls or off the top of the head punditry. They work as votes up or down on the strength and performance of the White House party, and that's what the keys gauge. And retrospectively, the keys go all the way back to 1860, the election of Abe Lincoln, when we had no automobiles, no planes, no polls. Women didn't vote, no radio, no television. So they have endured through enormous changes in our society, our demography, our politics, our economy. You know, let those critics show what their track record is on prediction. Otherwise, I think they should be quiet.
Well, there you have it. Alan Lichtman, I know the Harris-Walz campaign must be thrilled. Thank you so much. In the sprint to November, fundraising is going gangbusters. A source telling CNN tonight that Harris more than doubled Trump's $130 million fundraising haul in the month of August. That would be at least $260 million for the Harris-Walz campaign. I want to bring a national political correspondent for Politico, Meredith McGraw, former deputy communications director for Donald Trump's 2016 campaign, Brian Lanza, and CNN political commentator, Karen Finney. Glad to have you all here today. First of all, this fundraising, and of course you saw the prediction from Professor Lichtman. What did you make of this? It said a Harris victory. I think I know your response, but I want to hear it.
Yeah, listen, yeah, I appreciate him. He's trying to put science, some type of political science behind it, but to me, it just feels like the roulette table, black or red. You know, when it's the final 2 candidates, it's how hard is it to really choose, and he's been right, you know, apparently 10 times out of 10 times, or 9 out of 10 times. I don't know, I don't buy it. we'll see. I mean, polling is polling. Human nature is human nature. It's hard to sort of make a prediction 2 months out, has been my experience.
I mean, there has been a lot of tumult, so we say, and a lot of back and forth over this summer
What else
alone. I
changes,
mean,
right?
there's a lot of things happening, but this fundraising effort, Karen, I mean, Harris more than doubling $130 million in just August alone, it seems. When you look at this, I mean, what kind of advantage might that give a campaign in these last 60 days?
It's critical. I mean, think about the fact that they were able to announce earlier this week that they were giving money to the campaign committees for down ballot races, governor's races, state legislative races, the House, the Senate, all of which are important. If you win the White House and you don't have Congress, it obviously stalls your agenda. So the fact that they have enough resources to comfortably give those dollars, I've heard that there will be more going out also to support some of the outside, the groups that they work in collaboration with to mobilize Latino voters, African American voters. They have a very solid ground game. And in all seriousness, she does not have to use any money towards legal bills. That makes a difference. That means every dollar you're raising, you can be thinking about how much am I putting that into TV? How much am I putting that into digital? How much am I putting that into ground game or mail? All the things that we know you need to do, particularly for her, this is important, given the short time frame, to make sure voters are getting the information that they need. You want the voters who need to hear certain messages, hearing those messages in the channels where they're going to be looking for that information in the way that they are going to be most interested to hear it.
And of course, that's the battleground states and also throughout to get that road to 270. You can't just focus all that effort in 1 or 6 different states. Meredith, there were remarks that were made to the Economic Club of New York by Donald Trump. He was talking about tariffs. He wanted to cut capital gains taxes. He wanted to impose tariffs on, I think, imports. But then he was asked about what he would do to make childcare more affordable. Listen to what he said.
Childcare is childcare. There's something, you have to have it. But those numbers are small relative to the kind of economic numbers that I'm talking about, including growth, but growth also headed up by what the plan is that I just told you about. We're going to be taking in trillions of dollars, and as much as childcare is talked about as being expensive, it's relatively speaking not very expensive compared to the kind of numbers we'll be taking in.
I've had 2 children in childcare. It is not just relatively expensive, it is expensive. What did he mean by that? Did you get a sense of how he intends to make childcare more affordable?
Well, Donald Trump said that childcare is important, but his answer really gave zero specifics on how exactly he would address it. And a big part of his speech today at the Economic Club was talking about tariffs. Trump has been a big fan of tariffs. His team says that it will spur domestic production, but there's a lot of criticism from economists who say this would actually fall on consumers. And he was trying to say, it seems like in this answer that these tariffs, the money that's raised from it, could somehow go towards offsetting the cost for childcare. But the woman who asked that question said she was disappointed in his answer because it was so meandering and there wasn't a real clear answer to what she wanted.
But you got to have that answer, Brian, on
Yeah,
issues
listen,
like this.
he needs to work on that answer. I mean, it's not the first time he's heard that question. We've dealt with that question back to even in 2016, childcare. It was a major component of the 2016 campaign and part of his administration. He clearly needs to work on that answer. But I would point out, he's having this economic speech, talking about what he's going to do to improve the economy, talk about what he's going to do to bring inflation down. Single-handedly, the best thing he can do to help with childcare is drive down the cost of everything. Whether it's, please let me finish, whether it's childcare, which is driven up. I was used to the interruption from everybody. Sorry.
I understand that can be offensive.
You can breathe.
I'm used to everybody interrupting. But it's what he can do is by driving down these costs on everyday products, by dealing with inflation. That's ultimately going to drive down the cost of childcare. I think that's what he was trying to say, and he clearly didn't articulate it. He needs to work on it. But I think we can all agree if we deal with inflation, that will drive down the cost of childcare. But there's other components he needs to do, as he did in 2016 and 2017.